Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 6, Episode 6, Sacrifice of Angels. This episode aired November 3rd, 1997. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode, Favor the Bold?
No, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was a pretty good episode, although it was a long time ago at this point because we skipped a week of recording and now I don't remember what happened. And in the middle, we watched Prodigy and Lower Decks.
We've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, I guess.
Yeah, I think that may have muddled my brain. So I rewatched the episode today, this one, so I am prepared.
Just remember, this one doesn't have Boimler in it.
This one is not animated.
But like Lower Decks, it does have Mars O'Brien in it.
That's true. Well, we did get a last time on. Mostly what they show are things from the cold open in the previous episode with the space battle, or at least when they were bait for Jem'Hadar's ships.
Yeah.
But we see a few other things mixed in to remind us that Rom is scheduled to be executed, Odo is distracted by the cult, and the Federation fleet is vastly outnumbered by the Dominion and Cardassian ships. So they're setting us up for a lot of bad stuff.
And we get the classic Star Trek multi-parter of, now the conclusion.
Love it.
We open with a huge Cardassian fleet, and we see the Starfleet ships approaching them. This is really cool. There are so many ships. The effects are just great. Yeah. It really gives a sense of scale.
Of how outnumbered they are.
Yeah, and this was TV in the 90s. It's so impressive. I mean, even today, you look at this, and it's in NTSC. It's not even high def. And you can look at it and say, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
On the Defiant, all the crew look very serious. Apart from Garak, who has to deliver a trademark quip with, I feel sorry for the Klingons. They're going to miss a very interesting fight.
Yeah.
Okay, I think in naval warfare, which is kind of what this is equivalent to, you never, ever want to have an interesting fight.
You maybe never want to in any kind of warfare.
Sisko's plan is to attack just the Cardassian ships, making them split off from the rest of the fleet so they can open a hole in the Dominion lines. Miles then starts quoting the poem Charge of the Light Brigade, and Julian chimes in. This is wildly inappropriate. It's referencing one of the most disastrously foolish British military actions ever. It wasn't until the Battle of the Somme the British managed to do anything quite this stupid again. Nog has the right idea here, asking them to stop.
Yeah.
Sisko, at this point, should be telling them to just shut up. If you want to invoke the right spirit of this battle, you should be referencing Taffy 3. That's this week's homework for listeners.
Or they could be singing some Klingon songs or something. Something positive.
Right.
Yeah, Nog finds it quite unsettling and he asks them to knock it off.
Exactly.
I also like in the scene how Nog was quietly asking questions.
Yeah.
Rather than, bothering the captain about it. So he was asking Garak, like, why are we doing this? And Garak was helping him understand. I thought that was kind of cool.
It also shows that Garak has quite a good tactical sense. He's understanding the orders that are coming from Sisko and understanding the rationale behind those orders.
Right.
Sisko orders the attack to start, and we begin some fantastic battle sequences. Honestly, this is movie-worthy. And into the opening credits.
Do we know what those little ships are that are flying around that he sends in to attack the Cardassian ships? I don't feel like we've seen those before, but I'm not great with the ships.
These are something new. Okay. And he refers to them as fighters. And I think we only seen these in Deep Space Nine.
Interesting.
Back from the credits, and the battle continues with Sisko giving his orders. And we cut to Terek Nor, where Dukat has figured out what Sisko's plan is. He can't miss the opportunity to mock Weyoun, who clearly doesn't actually get what Sisko is trying to do. And Dukat explains how he's going to open a hole in their lines and then close it, trapping Sisko. He informs them that the minefield will be down in 8 hours, and Weyoun tells Dukat he will hold him to that. Damar does not like this and tells Dukat he'd like to toss Weyoun out of an airlock, and the Founder with him.
I kind of wish he would try.
Some of that natural Cardassian xenophobia coming out here?
Damar has gotten way too comfortable in his role, too big for his britches.
Yes.
I have a feeling he's going to pay that price.
A gull promoted beyond his ability. Dukat scolds Damar, saying, that's no way to talk about our valued allies. Not until the war is over, at least.
Yeah, and then they both smirk.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me that he doesn't have respect for the changelings, and I don't mean that he should worship them like the Vorta, but he's got to at the very least respect their power.
Yes.
Because they are dangerous creatures.
Yeah, he doesn't really seem to have an appreciation for how potentially dangerous the changelings are.
Yeah, maybe he's not seen it right in front of him.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, she should give him a demonstration. I would do it by throwing him out of an airlock.
We're talking about Dukat here, right?
Either one. Both. 2 for 1.
I also think that might play into the Cardassians. How could these people be better than us? We're top of the chain.
Sure, yeah. When Dukat is really trying to show off about how much he knows about what Sisko is doing and how much he knows about battle strategy, he's like trying to impress the founder, and he's like saying it right in her face. She does not care.
Oh, the founder has no respect for solids. So it wouldn't matter what Dukat says. I think it's Dukat's tendency to try and appear impressive to everyone.
Of course. Yeah, of course. He's a show-off.
Right,
But she's just like, she just looks at him and then looks away. She just doesn't care.
Yeah. Damar now convinces Dukat to arrest Kira, Lita, and Jake, as they may sabotage the station. He also advises that Ziyal be confined to quarters, as he does not trust her, and neither should Dukat. He says she doesn't appreciate what it is to be a Cardassian or to be your daughter. Dukat angrily replies, "She is my daughter, and that means everything to me." That was interesting that he said that at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we've really seen that from Dukat, that she means everything to him. Like, remember when he abandoned her there and just left her for dead? So I don't know. He's a little up and down on this. Maybe he's now trying a little harder because he's built that relationship back up.
Like building that relationship's kind of backfired, that he didn't expect that she would be important to him.
Yeah, maybe. But it also could be that just sort of gross thing where he's just using her to get to Kira. So I don't know. His motives are questionable to me.
Oh, yeah. In the bar, there's a book club meeting with Kira, Jake, and Lita. They come up with a plan to shut down the power to the main computer. Kira tells them they'll need to use a bomb, and she'll be the one to do it. I like this. This is Kira back to her roots.
Yeah.
That total sense of confidence. I know how to do this.
Yeah. And they're also like, it won't be easy, but she's like, I got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, you see, she still has that faith in Sisko. When she says, he'll be here. I don't know whether that's faith in Sisko, the Starfleet captain, or whether that's faith in the emissary will be back here.
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, the book club meeting gets cut short as Damar comes into the bar, mob-handed with a bunch of Cardassians, and arrests Jake, Kira, and Lita. So this only leaves Quark to save the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah, Damar was really hoping in this scene that Kira was going to do something violent. He wanted an opportunity to shoot her, but she just goes, everything will be fine.
Yeah, he was itching just to shoot her. The space battle continues, and Dukat orders some of the Cardassian ships to break formation and open a hole in their lines. Sisko, Dax, and Bashir all see this as a trap, but Sisko pushes ahead as they may not get another chance. He orders, anyone who gets through, don't stop until you reach Deep Space Nine. We have some more great space battles. Both the Dominion and Starfleet ships are knocking 10 bells out of each other.
I'm sorry, what? 10 bells, what is that?
Is that an Englishism?
I don't know that phrase.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay, it means just beating the crap out of each other.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I don't remember that one. Doesn't ring a bell. Ha!
Puns will be deleted during editing.
Feel free. It's so strange to me that we are in space, yet somehow there is a front line, when really there would be an infinite number of ways to get to Deep Space Nine. This group, no matter how big this group of ships is, it's not like they're blocking the only bridge to something or the only road up a mountain. It's space.
You would think dispersing your fleet over an enormous area would result in the Dominion having to do the same thing. So the chances of being able to catch all the Starfleet ships would be much lower. So some of them would get through rather than having this almost Age of Sail style line of battle sort of confrontation where we all line up here, we all line up there. Then we just shoot at each other.
I mean, it makes more sense if you're trying to protect something, but they're not close to Deep Space Nine.
Right.
So it's just like a pocket in space, which there's a way around.
Yeah. Back on Terek Nor, in Sisko's office, Dukat is already toasting his victory. The conquerors of the Federation.
Yeah. And he's toasting himself because Weyoun doesn't want a glass. So he's like toasting himself with what looks like grape juice.
Weyoun at least has the common sense to ask if he's being a little bit premature here.
Yes. He's like, no.
This whole scene is really interesting because I think we get some real insight into Dukat, and he really seems to open up to Weyoun. Because Weyoun is talking about after they win, they'll need a big occupation army, they'll need a huge number of ships.
And he wants to kill all the humans.
Yeah.
Because that's like the only way to stop any kind of insurgents.
Exactly. And Dukat goes into this whole piece where he says, you can't do that. A true victory is to make your enemy see they were wrong to oppose you in the first place, to force them to acknowledge your greatness.
Yeah.
I think we're meant to see here just how much of Cardassian behavior is driven purely by ego. And this weird sense that they sort of need to be validated. We need to prove we're better than you.
Yeah. And we haven't won until you're sort of worshiping us, until you see that we're superior to you. Whereas on the Vorta side, and probably this comes from the founders, it's really about control and controlling everything. They don't care if they're worshipped. They just want to be in charge and they want to control everything. They want everybody to just be completely subservient and stopping the chaos. That was their big thing.
Just follow orders. Weyoun is talking about things from a practical and an implementation model of what they do after. And Dukat is on this ego trip.
Yeah, he wants to be worshipped and respected. And that is a very different way of looking at it. He even complains about Sisko not respecting him and about the Bajorans not respecting him because, he treated them like his children. And it's just such an interesting insight into him. And Weyoun he says he finds it fascinating, but he does laugh because it really is he's just such an egomaniac, and it really comes out here.
Well, Dukat brings up how the biggest disappointment in his life is that the Bajorans still refuse to appreciate how lucky they were to have him as their liberator. He uses the phrase liberator, and how on Bajor there's not a single statue of him. It's amazing how they've really opened this character up so much here. And you see, these are the things that he's concerned about. And his view of the Cardassian occupation of Bajor is that he was doing them a favor.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And Weyoun, where he's laughing, and he says how he finds it fascinating. Oh, Dukat is such a victim in his own narrative. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
And the look on Weyoun's face when this is happening, it's almost like Weyoun is saying to himself, what is happening here?
Yeah, this is kind of an amazing scene.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the first time we've seen what are all the driving factors behind Dukat. And all of them, when it really comes down to it, are just petty.
Yeah.
We go to Odo, who is still in his quarters, and the evil founder comes in to tell him that the war against the Federation is going well. Odo is very concerned because he says people he knows are dying and fighting. And the solids still mean something to him. And the evil founder tells him that the link means more.
But I guess it's finally eating at him a little bit that people like Sisko, who really did a lot for him, Sisko, helped him get to the founders, and Kira helped him get to them.
Yeah.
And they've been very accepting of him and who he is. So finally he's going, oh, gee, people I call my friends are dying, and we're here pretending like it's nothing.
Right.
He's got a look on his face like, oh,
yes.
What have I done?
Well, it's more of her doing that. We should be the only important things in your life. And she's telling him how to think.
Yeah. Well, this has been her narrative for the last 2 episodes. And so she's just continuing. She hasn't changed. She's just continuing on that same path. But now maybe for a second here, it's a little bit more personal to Odo. And it's going to get way more personal.
Yeah. So Odo is not fully convinced, and he still has his feelings for Kira. The evil founder tells him that you cannot allow a solid to deny your place in the link. I will not permit it. That is the moment. You see the look on Odo's face. He seems genuinely surprised.
Well,
there's sort of a look of, what do you mean you won't allow it?
Yeah, this is where she tries to move things along maybe a little bit too quickly.
Yes.
She says she can't permit a solid from denying his place in the Great Link. And I think that really gets his defenses up.
Yes. And I think maybe Odo's seeing for the first time here that maybe this paradise that she's portraying isn't quite as freeing as she's telling Odo. Odo is definitely having doubts. And she goes on to tell him that the Major has been arrested and will be found guilty and executed. Her death will be his salvation.
And finally,
yes,
Odo is rocked, right? You see it.
She tells him to link again and embrace the clarity, but this time he refuses and actually turns his back on her.
Yep.
And she says, "You can't help the solids. It's too late for them." I think she needs to review the logs from the Children of Time and what a heartbroken Odo for 200 years will do to save the solid he loves.
Yeah, that her death is your salvation line. Absolutely a fatal mistake on her part.
Yeah.
Why did she even tell him that at this point? If it happened, it would have just happened. And then she could have just given him something to react to.
Yeah.
But instead, now she's warned him. And you could see something changed in him in this conversation.
I think you start seeing the true nature of the founders. They're controlling even for their own people.
Yes. Yeah.
He's starting to get an idea of what the link is really like, about how it's more about control and conformity than it is paradise. Leading on from what we talked about in the last podcast of she was basically saying, you won't need to worry anymore. You won't need to do any thinking. We'll do it for you.
This is really the pivotal scene for Odo in this entire 3-episode arc.
Yeah.
Where finally the look on his face and his reaction makes sense.
The drugs have worn off.
Maybe. Well, I just think she's made a mistake. I think she's made a tactical error.
I think it's that founder arrogance.
Mm-hmm. Paralleled with the Cardassian arrogance.
Yes. Back to the battle, and the Defiant is flying through the Dominion lines. The 2 ships flanking it are taking an absolute beating and are heavily damaged. But the Defiant is still making it through.
Brutal destruction, though, of some Starfleet ships. I hate to watch that.
Well, they have Jem'Hadar ships on their tail, and they're losing shields.
This was the first moment where they show Miles, and in front of him on his console, the screen is just static. Yet somehow he's still getting readings from something. That really made me laugh. He's like, oh, well, this system's fried, and here's this problem. And it's like, the screen is static. You are not getting that information.
He's just pressing buttons. He's just keeping busy. So when everything starts looking bad, all of a sudden, heavy fire comes from above, and all 3 of the Jem'Hadar ships in pursuit are destroyed.
Woohoo!
And we cut to a Klingon fleet attacking from out of the sun.
You knew it was coming.
Worf calls Sisko and apologizes for being late. I think they arrived exactly on time. The Klingons managed to punch a hole through the lines, and the Defiant is through. I felt kind of bad for the Warbird, which was on the right side of the Defiant, because it gets a little bit too close to the ship it just destroyed and was caught in the blast.
Yeah. I mean, we knew they were coming.
Yeah.
We knew that in the last episode. That's just classic Star Trek. Just as the battle is at its worst moment, someone shows up to save them.
Yeah.
So you knew that it was going to be the Klingons. You knew that they were coming. But I was surprised at the lack of drama. Usually they will do some hero music or rescue music in that moment. They didn't do that. The music picked up a little bit, but not dramatically enough. Maybe because this isn't the end of the episode. But still, I thought that was strange.
It was kind of understated, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But about time.
Well, the Defiant is the only ship that's made it through, and Sisko orders a course for Deep Space Nine maximum warp. Back on Terek Nor, Damar reports that Sisko has gotten through the fleet, and instead of pursuing, Dukat decides Sisko's no match for the station. If he wants to commit suicide, let him come.
Again, too full of himself to make the right choice.
In this scene, Weyoun seems to be watching this with a look on his face of, are you all idiots? Am I surrounded by idiots?
Well, he tells Damar that they should pursue the Defiant, but Dukat, of course, he only listens to Dukat, and Dukat's like, oh no, let Sisko come here so he can watch me win in person.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. He wants Sisko to watch him win. Exactly.
An absolute failure in strategy.
Oh, yeah.
I am so busy worried about being worshipped that I am making all the wrong choices.
Precisely. In Ziyal's quarters, Quark surprises her and asks if she can make Hasperat souffle.
Why did he grab her from behind? I don't...
He could have just asked her. I don't know.
And that didn't make any sense.
Drama.
But yeah, a little drama.
We now go to the security office with Quark and Ziyal and the souffle, and while the Cardassian guard is inspecting it, Ziyal stuns him with a hyperspray.
I love that scene.
She's in on the prison break.
Yep.
Quark comes into the holding cells holding 2 phasers and confronts the Jem'Hadar guards. I think it would have been smarter to give one to Ziyal.
It would have been a lot smarter to give one to Ziyal, yeah. Having him hold both of them just means one of those 2 Jem'Hadar could have shot him.
Right. Well, the Jem'Hadar try their luck, but they can't raise their guns quickly enough, and Quark shoots both of them. Ziyal looks completely surprised, and Quark is in shock.
Yeah, but she keeps her head at least.
Well, they get the cells open, and Rom and Kira go to shut down the main computer. Kira is straight into full military mode. She's ready to fight.
She's issuing orders.
There is no messing around with Kira.
This is one of those scenes I love where the teamwork comes out.
Yes. She orders the others to hide.
Yeah, she tells Jake to stay out of sight. He's like, yeah, okay.
Good plan. I like that.
Yeah.
Although, with the Jem'Hadar, I don't know why you wouldn't just go in and shoot them straight off.
Yeah.
They're going to try to fight no matter what.
Yeah, there's no reason to go in and try to chat with them. I completely agree.
It is the thing that Quark said before where he's a people person and he's not really very bloodthirsty. And at the end of this scene where Jake leaves, he has to pull Quark with him because Quark is like fully in shock.
Yeah, he's still looking at the Jem'Hadar soldiers on the ground.
Yeah. The evil founder is still working on Odo, telling them that he should link because all the answers he seeks are in the link.
Ugh.
She is not giving up. She is trying to get in his head again.
Just take this pill. One more pill. All the answers.
Yeah.
Right here. Mm-hmm.
Weyoun interrupts to tell them that the terrorist group have escaped and they would be safer in ops. Evil Founder goes with Weyoun, but Odo stays, saying he'll be fine there. And I guess this was the first time I noticed it with Weyoun, of when he leaves a room with the Founder, he actually backs out, bowing. He doesn't turn his back on him and leave. He sort of has his arms out and does this sort of very reverential backing out.
Yes. I don't know if it's just reverence or fear or what it is, but it's definitely something and it's on purpose.
I didn't see it as fear with Weyoun. I think it is genuine, absolute reverence for them.
Just, worship.
Yeah. Right, worship, yeah.
So did you think in the scene when Odo says, I'll be fine here?
Yeah.
Does the Founder woman know? Does she know she's overplayed her hand? Does she know he's going to stay?
I don't know.
Because she doesn't interact with him again, but at the end she's like, oh yeah, he's not coming.
I think maybe she suspects because he won't link with her. He won't do more of the drugs.
Yeah.
He's kind of put his foot down. The old Odo seems to have reasserted itself.
It's such an interesting moment, just with the two of them looking at each other. The first time I saw it, I was wondering what that scene meant.
Yeah.
And then later I thought, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Did she already know in that moment that he was really having doubts?
I also think it could be because they are so self-centered that she puts her personal safety above that of Odo's.
Right, yeah.
That if Odo did this and got himself killed, it's his own fault.
Well, yes, for sure.
And she wouldn't care enough about that as long as she's kept safe.
Okay.
We go straight back into action as Kira and Rom are in a firefight and running away from pursuing Cardassians. They get trapped by the Jem'Hadar in a cargo bay, and the shooting continues. Then Rom says, "Do you hear that? It's Bajoran phaser fire." And if you listen to the audio at this point, you actually hear a couple of phaser shots and then thuds right after. It's subtle, but it's quite a good effect. I did like that.
And the closed captions say body thuds to floor as well, which is quite funny.
Well, the firing stops, and we see dead Jem'Hadar with Bajoran security standing in the doorway, along with Odo.
Odo stepping through the sort of smoke was really cool.
Yes.
Like, finally, the hero is back.
And he says, never underestimate the element of surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure those Jem'Hadar are dead.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am certain Bajoran security are unlikely to set to stun when you're dealing with occupiers.
No, and I'm sure they've been waiting for the opportunity.
Oh.
And we're quite happy to follow Odo into that.
Yeah. Okay, could be a dangerous mission. We're going to kill Jem'Hadar. Oh, everybody volunteered.
Yes. And we're going to save Kira, and we're going to do something big to get these people off the station. Oh, yep, let's go.
Odo and the security detail escort Kira and Rom to shut down the power, and she asks him why. He tells her, "I don't think there's time to explain. Besides, I think you know the answer." She asks him about the link, and he tells her, "It was paradise, but it appears I am not ready for paradise."
That answer really made me uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah, I just didn't like the way that he said it. Maybe because it really is like a drug then, where it was great for me while the whole world crumbled around me, but I was perfectly happy.
Really?
And it also makes me think that that temptation to go back to that then is still real.
Okay.
So I just found it uncomfortable.
That's not my take of it at all.
Okay.
I saw that Odo saying the paradise. There were air quotes around that.
Oh, I didn't get that at all.
I felt Odo was saying almost cynically that this was paradise because he knew it would remove his sense of identity, his sense of empathy for the people he cared about, his love of Kira. This was the evil founder woman's version of paradise, and he wasn't going to be part of that.
Interesting. No, I still felt the same way about it the third time I watched it, so... Well, maybe we'll see as we go.
Yeah.
Or maybe we won't, I'm not sure. But that's interesting. Yeah, we don't see that the same at all.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm being a bit more empathetic to Kira at this point because she's not just going to forgive everything in this moment because you came and saved me. Maybe because of that, I'm suspicious, I guess, of what he's saying.
I think it's because I saw Odo as much being a victim of the evil founder as anything else. She was deliberately overwhelming him with the link. And we've taken this episode for Odo to get his mind in order again. And he's realizing that maybe this version of paradise is a lie.
Interesting.
We now get a lot of very quick shots flipping between the station, the Defiant, and Kira and Rom working on disabling the power. And on the Defiant, we learn it's only 11 minutes away from Terek Nor. Rom is working on cutting the power, but he's running out of time, and Kira tells him to shut down power to the weapons array instead. Damar reports that the Klingons have outflanked the Dominion and their lines are starting to crumble. Dukat is still in full overconfidence mode and is saying there's nothing to worry about. He's relying on the reinforcements coming through the wormhole.
I mean, he wasn't wrong, but it's a critical error to count your chickens before they're hatched.
Rom almost has power disabled, and Damar reports that the minefield is neutralized. Dukat orders fire. Right at the moment, Rom disables the weapons, and we see the minefield exploding.
Oh, so dramatic.
Great editing here. They're really building the tension to this moment.
Well, even when Rom says that he's got it, you think, oh, it's a win,
yes.
But it's too late. It's just the second after Dukat said fire.
Right. They led you into this classic Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've just saved the universe at this moment. Oh, no,
nope.
You're a fraction of a second too late.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah, that was great.
And we see the Defiant enter the wormhole as we go into the ad break.
When the Defiant is heading towards the wormhole, Weyoun says to destroy it. And Damar actually jumps to it to go and destroy it. This is the first time that he took an order that didn't come from Dukat, which I thought was interesting.
Oh.
He didn't even look to Dukat for permission.
Yeah.
So that was a little weird.
Oh.
Maybe it was just cut, for time.
Yeah.
But then, of course, he runs around and is like, oh, the weapons don't work. And Dukat immediately says, Major Kira. Such a good scene.
Strictly speaking, it was Rom, but
Well, she made it happen. She enabled it. He was not wrong.
The Defiant is now in the wormhole, and on the view screen, we see hundreds, if not thousands, of Jem'Hadar ships. And I'm pretty sure somebody's probably counted them all, if we look on Memory Alpha.
I can't look at the screen when they're in the wormhole with all the flashing purple lights.
Oh. Sisko orders them to prepare to fight, and suddenly, he's pulled into the Celestial Temple, or the Realm of the Prophets, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm going with the more Bajoran religious interpretation.
Okay. And finally, what I've been asking for years happens.
I have been so wanting to tell you this.
How many times have I said, why doesn't he just go into the wormhole and ask the prophets for help?
Well, the prophets are doing their usual thing and appearing as different characters from the station. And they're also talking in riddles and metaphors in the way that they do.
Yep, doing all the usual things. Mm-hmm.
They say to Sisko, you desire to end the game. You seek to shed your corporeal existence. That cannot be allowed. The game must not end.
Yeah, why must the game not end? And what is the game? This is a very interesting scene.
Sisko realizes they mean his life, and he tells them he would sacrifice it and the life of his crew to stop the Dominion from conquering the Alpha Quadrant. The prophets continue, telling him they do not agree. They find your reasoning flawed, insufficient, and they repeat to him, "You are the Sisko." Sisko starts getting annoyed at this point and telling them, "You have no right to interfere in my life." And they just reply, "We have every right."
Yeah.
He tells them, "You want to interfere? Then do something about the reinforcements." The prophets continue to not want to interfere, saying, "This is a corporeal matter, and corporeal matters do not concern us." He calls their bluff, saying, "You care about Bajor," sending them orbs and emissaries. "You even told me once you are of Bajor, and if they do not act, Bajor will be destroyed." He now delivers the line of the episode. "You want to be gods? Then be gods. I need a miracle. Bajor needs a miracle. Stop those ships."
It's interesting when they say that they don't care about corporeal matters when they care about Sisko and he's corporeal, and they seem to care about Bajor. Everything that happens on Bajor would be a corporeal matter.
Yes.
So, yeah, they are definitely contradicting themselves and hiding something.
Yes. That is fascinating. You can't take what they say on face value there.
Never. Yeah, you never can. And, well, I had a lot of questions during the scenes, which I'm pretty sure are things that I shouldn't ask, and I should just let the story play out. I certainly wonder is this what they had in mind when they first created these prophets? You know, that they actually, as it turns out here, they appear to be prophets.
Yeah.
and not just wormhole aliens. So I wonder, was this the long game in the plan in the story? I certainly hope it was.
Yeah. Well, the prophets say, "The Sisko, he is intrusive. He tries to control the game. A penance must be extracted. The Sisko is of Bajor, but he will find no rest there."
Ugh.
And the Kira prophet touches his ear and says, "His pa will follow a different path." Sisko asks, "What path is that?" But there is no answer as they return him back to the bridge of the Defiant. The crew reports ready and targets are locked.
And then it goes to a dramatic ad break here.
Back to the Defiant, and Nog reports, "There must be thousands of them." And Garak replies, "And half of them have target locks on us." Dax, watching the view screen, suddenly says, "Benjamin." And we see the Dominion ships slowly start to disappear. In a few seconds, all of them just vanish. Garak asks, "Where did they go?" And very quietly, Sisko says, "Wherever they went, I don't think they're coming back."
Do you think he tells everybody what happened? I mean...
I think he would probably tell Kira and Dax.
Yeah. When the prophet that looked like Kira did the ear-grabbing thing, I had this really light bulb moment that, oh, wow, are they really gods? Did they create Bajor? Is this really trying to tell me that? Because that was something that the Vedics would do.
Yeah.
And the Kais have done that. They grab another person's ear and they're talking about the Pa. And you're like, oh my gosh, is that really something that they wrote into their version of the Bible and it's a real thing that happened? But then I also thought, well, they like to do the thing where they're showing people in the person's life that they're talking to, and it could just be what they're doing. For example, Dukat has a baseball, and they have no real reason for Dukat to have a baseball, except that's just what he's been doing. And so that's how they would see him now. But there were just so many interesting things like that in that scene.
Yes, and I think the prophets clearly have an advantage here because they're outside time. And the concept of linear time is still something they seem to be struggling with.
Yeah.
It's almost like they know the past and the future. They know everything that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this reference to the game, I thought is really interesting because as Sisko explained it, this is like linear time to them.
Okay.
I think that's maybe what they meant.
Interesting.
But you've got to admit, from Sisko's perspective, that must be very interesting if they said to him they won't allow him to sacrifice himself.
Yes, a little bit like the founder woman not allowing something.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why a penance needs to be paid. And obviously they're referring back to the thing that Sisko said in the last episode where he was making a plan to essentially retire on Bajor and live there because to him that was paradise. Again, another parallel to the founder story. And now they're saying, oh no, you can't rest there. Well, why not? Would gods really be that petty? Certainly the Greek gods were petty. So I guess this could be the same thing if that's the parallel of it. But I don't it's almost like it's a Catholic thing.
Okay.
I don't get it.
Overanalysis time here. I have talked before how the prophets can be very clunky when dealing with corporeal beings, just because it's such an alien thing to them.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the prophets, because he said, you want to be gods, be like gods. I think maybe the prophets, because they can read Sisko's mind, they can access people's inner thoughts and everything. They saw, if you like, what's expected of gods, how humans view gods, how maybe, like you said, the Greek gods, how they would behave. And they're like, oh, we're going to do something godlike. Well, gods always extract a penance or make you pay a price. Well, we should do the same thing. And in that sort of clunky way, they interpret maybe being a god, this is what you do. You now have a price to pay for it.
Maybe. But if they want Sisko to do something specific, why would they not just tell him instead of saying, oh, you're not doing what we want, so we're going to punish you? That's just, it's confusing, but they're always confusing. Yeah. That's been consistent since episode 1, because you're right. They don't know exactly how to communicate or to make their point.
Yeah. I have a theory here of, I think what's going to happen is every time Sisko applies for permits to build his house on Bajor, the permitting office is going to get visions from the prophets telling him to deny them. And that's simply what they're going to do.
That'd just always be the next problem that gets in the way of the thing being granted. Yeah. The only other thing I would say about this scene is I really felt like Marc Alaimo missed the memo.
Really?
In this scene. There's a part of it where he's Dukat.
Yes.
And that's not what any of the rest of them do. They're all being prophets where the body that they're in is just the vessel.
Yeah, it just looks like them.
But Marc Alaimo is playing Dukat a couple of times in that scene.
Oh.
And maybe it was because he had such a huge part in this episode and in the 3-episode arc. And he hasn't done this before. This is the first time he's been used as a prophet. But there were a couple times I was like, oh, dial it back.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't really notice that, but you're right. He did.
Yeah.
When it comes to Deep Space Nine, this is probably one of the most memorable scenes for me and one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like you say, this is the one where it's like the prophets for the first time actually act like gods.
Yes.
On Terek Nor, the Axis of Evil is watching the wormhole open, but only the Defiant comes through. All the reinforcements have vanished. Damar now reports 200 ships have broken through the lines and are heading for Terek Nor. Weyoun claps his hands together and says, time to start packing. He is such an upbeat guy.
Yep.
He's like, okay, we're moving somewhere else. Have fun.
Yep.
The evil founder then orders them to pull all their forces back to Cardassian territory and pointedly tells Dukat, it looks like this war is going to take longer than expected. Right in his face as well.
Yeah, and he has a meltdown.
Yes. Damar starts the evacuation, but Dukat seems to be dazed and leaves to find his daughter.
Yeah, and Damar tries to stop him.
But no, he's off.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the evil founder is actually giving direct strategic orders.
Oh, yes, she is.
And she claims that really they just let the thwart handle the conduct of the war.
No, baloney.
Is there anything she says that isn't a lie?
No.
I guess the only thing is they want Odo back on their terms. So I guess that isn't a lie.
Yeah, she's clearly in control of all of it.
Yes. On the Defiant, Bashir tells them the Dominion fleet has broken off the fight.
I thought Sisko was just a little bit smug in that scene. It's like, did you really win? You kind of cheated. I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do. I think it was the right thing to do. But in this moment, I would certainly not be smug.
I didn't think it was cheating. I think it was just invoking friends to help.
No, it's just that it's not like he won the battle.
Yeah.
You know, it's not because of his amazing strategic battle skills.
Oh, yeah, I guess he also didn't really plan to see the prophets. They just pulled him in.
No, he was going in there to blow himself up and take as many of the Dominion ships out as he could.
Yeah.
But something else happened and he won. I don't know.
I think that's one of those situations where you just take the win.
You take the win, exactly.
Back on the station, Dukat is stumbling around and the computer is announcing the evacuation of Dominion personnel. As they're being evacuated, Weyoun asks the evil founder if Odo will be coming with them. She replies, no, but he will join us one day. It's only a matter of time.
Ugh.
Ha! Failed again, didn't you?
Yeah, please leave.
Somewhere on the station, Dukat finds Ziyal and tells her she's all he has, all that he cares about. And she tells him, no matter how much I try to hate you, I just can't.
That's funny. I can.
Kira called it, didn't she?
Yep.
Last week, she said, after you weren't angry anymore, you'd have to figure out how you felt. Well, this answers it.
Yep.
Dukat tells her he couldn't live with himself if she hated him, and he tries to get her to leave for Cardassia, but she tells him she's not going. The station is her home, and then she drops the bombshell. She tells him that she helped Kira and the others escape, and that she belongs on the station.
Yep.
She says, "Goodbye, father," and walks away, briefly stopping to tell Dukat, "I love you." But as she does, a phaser hits her square in the chest, and we see Damar. He tells Dukat, "She's a traitor." Dukat rushes to the dying Ziyal, saying, "It's okay, I forgive you." Damar tries again to get Dukat to leave, but he stays with Ziyal, and Damar runs off.
He yells at him dramatically and maybe manically, I would describe.
Yeah, that was a good description.
I was just starting to like that Ziyal.
On the station, a triumphant Sisko MacArthur has returned, and he hugs Jake. There is a lot of cheering and clapping. Everybody seems pretty happy to see him. Martog arrived, telling Sisko he owes him a barrel of blood wine, as Sisko got to the station first. Dax is reunited with Worf, and Miles and Julian arrange to go to the holosuites to play the Battle of Britain. Is that a euphemism for something else?
No, I think that's exactly what they do, because they're weird. They just got out of one battle. Now they want to go in another. I would think that's the last thing you would want to do in that scenario, but...
Nog and Rom are reunited, and Rom is suitably impressed that Nog has been promoted. But Garak is looking around, and he can't find Ziyal.
Oh, no.
He goes to the infirmary and finds Ziyal dead. Kira tells him, "She loved you," to which Garak replies, "I could never figure out why," and gently touches her cheek, saying, "I guess I never will."
Finally, someone who appreciated him for who he was.
Yeah.
Aw.
In a holding cell, Dukat is now babbling to himself about how he'll go back to Cardassia with Ziyal, and she'll be safe there.
Mm-hmm.
Dukat's mind clearly has just cracked.
And he keeps saying, "I forgive you, Ziyal," like she's standing in front of him, but she is not.
Yes, he is completely gone.
Yeah.
Sisko suggests that maybe Bashir can do something for him, and Odo takes Dukat out of the cell. All this time, he's holding Sisko's baseball, and as Odo leads him away, he hands it to Sisko, saying, "I forgive you too."
Creepy, really, the way he looked at Sisko.
Yes. And we close on an outside shot of the station. The end.
Well, we've been doing a lot of analysis as we go. Yes. So I assume, though, you still have more over analysis?
Oh, absolutely. First thing, I think we should now start calling it Deep Space Nine again.
Yes.
So I guess the angel that was to be sacrificed was Ziyal.
I guess. I mean, it's kind of surprising she's the only one who was sacrificed.
And, oh wow, did you ever call it with Ziyal?
Yeah, I definitely had heard some time ago that Dukat's daughter was killed off in the series. I didn't have any idea when it happened, but I guess knowing that that was coming kind of made me look for signs. Yeah. And certainly the title of the episode was a clue. And it also seemed like she had every opportunity to leave and to have a different life somewhere else, but she came back. Yeah. So it just seemed like maybe there were a lot of clues, and somebody had to be sacrificed in this episode. We couldn't get out of it without somebody having to pay a price. Right. And she's the exact type of character in Star Trek that we kill off. So it was just a matter of time, and this just sort of felt like this was that time.
A little bit of logical deduction for Star Trek watchers.
It's like how I knew for absolute sure the Klingons were going to come in when the battle was completely lost, or when it seemed like it was lost. They would arrive late, but they would still arrive. Right. It's just probably my years of watching Star Trek that made that seem obvious to me.
Next thing, when Odo helps Kira and says, "I don't think there's time to explain it." This has gone back to what we talked about earlier. I think it's because Odo has finally come to this conclusion, or realized that the link really isn't good for him. That he really can't truly become part of the link because he has this individuality. And I think the problem is, I come back to that thing again. Odo is an evolution, and he is a threat to the current order of the Founders, and they want to control him because he's a free thinker, because he has understanding of emotions like they don't understand, and he values solids as fellow creatures. If you want the long explanation, I think that's part of the reason why. I feel it's more than just he's in love with Kira.
Oh, I feel like it's more than he's just in love with Kira, but I do think that's a big part of it. because you're right. He has evolved in a different way, and maybe he has emotions that are more like the solids because he's been around the solids more than he's been around the founders. Yeah. And so the founders were always going to be unable to relate to him. He spent several days or weeks or however long these 3 episodes have been relating to them, but it wasn't working the other direction. And when she finally came out and said, oh, well, Kira's going to die, that's the only way for us to move to the next step, I think those feelings came to the surface. Yeah. And maybe in that moment, he realized, well, they're never going to understand me, even if I do understand them.
Oh, good take.
So I think a lot of stuff is wrapped into it, and he couldn't explain that in 30 seconds. He really couldn't even explain in 30 seconds that, well, I still have these unresolved feelings for you. They're not going away. Yeah. And I felt a lot of guilt when I realized that you were going to be killed. There are just probably so many things that a true creature that has feelings would have been feeling in that moment, and they didn't have time to have a conversation.
Yeah, I think there's more than just the simplistic answer for that, which I kind of liked.
But I still don't agree that there were double quotes around paradise. I think he was feeling that paradise. He was just maybe recognizing that the price of paradise was too high right now.
Okay. Interesting take.
If there are double quotes around paradise, that changes that line quite a bit. Right. If there aren't, it's a scary thing that he's saying there.
If there aren't, it's saying that, yeah, I could go there. It would be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to take the more positive for Odo side.
All right.
Next thing, there was a warbird that was destroyed by its own shooting when they're flying over that large Jem'Hadar ship defending the Defiant. Now, is that an honorable death? Are there places in Sto-vo-kor guaranteed?
Yes.
Because they made the mistake of being too close to the ship.
Oh, yes. Because it was still inglorious battle, even if they did something dumb. I feel like that's been proven.
Yeah. Okay.
By various other things that have happened.
Okay, so they'll all go. They won't just leave the helms person behind because, they made a mess.
No. They're all in.
Yeah, okay. Next thing, I liked how early on we got to see that this really is kind of a marriage of convenience between the Dominion and the Cardassians. The way he says, when this is over, they'll deal with the founders and the Vorta. How delusional are the Cardassians to think that after the Dominion have defeated Starfleet, that somehow they can wrest control from the Jem'Hadar when they couldn't even defeat the Klingons?
Maybe they think once they've got the upper hand, they don't need the Dominion anymore, but that's a gross miscalculation.
Right. Thousands of Jem'Hadar ships were going to be coming through the wormhole, and they think that somehow they're going to be able to defeat them after the Federation's conquered?
Yeah, it's a good question.
The Cardassians are just delusional.
Definitely. Completely delusional.
And my final point. So, I guess we've never seen Quark actually shoot anyone or really take up a phaser. So, I guess his freezing was because he is a people person and he doesn't like shooting customers. And he's never actually done anything like this before. He's talked about having a phaser in the past, but that was only because everybody was a food critic on the ship where he was a cook.
Yeah, I can't remember in that episode with the woman from Dallas. Did he have a phaser in that episode?
Don't recall.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think we have seen Quark brandishing a weapon before.
And so I think that would make it fit with Quark being somewhat in shock at that point. And something else I want to talk about is Marc Alaimo's performance here. This episode, pretty much by itself, really rounded out the character of Dukat, of just how faulty he is. Whether it's the distillation of he is the ultimate Cardassian, this is just what they're like, or whether it's just Dukat is ultimately a flawed person. Alaimo does a great job of just really exposing every single problem. The arrogance, the overconfidence, the really strange way he becomes fixated on his daughter.
Yeah.
Alaimo really fleshes it out. I did enjoy his performance in this.
He's definitely conflicted about his feelings for Ziyal.
Yeah.
But he even wants her to worship him.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not allowing anybody else to say anything negative about her. But he was prepared to be hard on her when he needed to be. I would agree. I thought this was Marc Alaimo's best performance as Dukat. Yeah. Maybe his best opportunity to have a strong performance based on the material that he got. Yeah. Apart from the scenes where he's one of the prophets, which I thought he overplayed. Otherwise, extremely strong and impressive performance by that actor, yes.
There's been a tendency with Dukat to almost have him like a mustache-twirling villain.
Yes.
Or a really scary sexual predator.
And the baseball was a little bit of a mustache twirl that he was endlessly playing with that, yes. But yeah, exactly.
One other comment is I do feel bad for Weyoun because I feel that particular character spends his entire time feeling like I'm stuck with all these idiots. My gods have forced me to deal with these people.
I don't know. He seemed to enjoy himself for the most part.
Well, he seemed very happy when it was time to evacuate.
Yeah, he's just, always willing to move to the next thing.
Okay, well, over to you, Kim.
I think I made all of my overanalysis points as we went along. Yeah. Maybe the only thing I didn't say is Damar shooting Ziyal seems like a mistake on his part.
Yeah.
I don't think Dukat is going to forgive that. I'm not sure that it matters. I mean, Dukat is essentially a prisoner of war at this point, and maybe he's lost his position in charge. But still, I gotta believe that Dukat's not going to forgive that.
No, but if we follow the Cardassian tradition, now that Damar is probably in a more senior position, he'll be able to get rid of Dukat.
That's true, but Dukat could just now go on a mission of revenge.
Yeah, but he's completely inept, so I wouldn't be worried if I was Damar.
Okay, all right. Yeah, all my other points we already talked about, so I guess I'll just go to women in the future, but I don't have much to say about women in the future. I guess we got to see Kira in action, and we got to see the freedom fighter in her come out.
Oh, that was wonderful.
And I do like that she didn't just run to Odo and give him a big hug. She was still looking at him suspiciously, and she was quite betrayed by him, and she should have felt betrayed by him because he betrayed her. It has been a pretty tough couple of episodes for her. So I thought that was good. And of course, Dax was just being Dax and just allowed to do her job, which is all I ever ask. So no complaints. Let's move to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Absolute thumbs up. Probably one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Great story, great performances. The whole piece with the prophets is fantastic, and so much insight into Dukat, and a really satisfying ending.
Yeah, absolute thumbs up for me. In fact, I think this is one of the best episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. Great performances, but also just what we covered in such a short amount of time is pretty amazing. And of course, we had the space battles, we had the prophets, we got this really clear picture of Dukat, and the individual performances certainly from the founder woman, from Renee Aubergenois, from Nana Visitor, from Marc Alaimo, certainly from Avery Brooks, maybe to a lesser extent. He didn't have as much to do until the one pivotal scene.
Yeah.
Just dramatic, good use of music, fantastic episode, top 5 or 10 of all time. If I sat down and made a list of all of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, this one would have to be in it.
Wow. So, in summary, we've gone from the floating strip mall to this is one of your favorite episodes of all of Trek. Up there with, I assume, Best of Both Worlds and Parallels.
Yeah, it's in the top 10. I'm not saying that Deep Space Nine has now kicked The Next Generation off of my favorite show list. I'm saying this is a great episode. I accept it as a great episode. Wow. I loved it, and it's on my list, yes.
Where would you put it compared to an episode we just discussed the other day, The Visitor?
I mean, The Visitor is also a great episode.
Yeah.
Maybe what I need to do is actually make the list of the favorite episodes, because I'm not sure I could name them. I'd have to look through all the Next Gen episodes.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember Voyager as well, because I didn't rewatch it. I mean, I remember some of the episodes from Voyager. All I'm saying is, if I were making a list, I feel like this episode would be in it. Would The Visitor be in it? Probably. I mean, that's a pretty great episode.
Yeah.
But also, that's a real standalone episode, whereas this one is part of a story.
Yeah, it's a big
Like
arc.
Best of Both Worlds was part of a story.
Yeah.
So it's just hard to compare the two.
Right.
But The Visitor might end up in that top 10 list as well, but it would be pretty tight. If in a year from now I was trying to decide which episode to watch and I had those two episodes to choose from, I probably would choose The Visitor because, again, it so much can stand on its own.
Yeah.
And you can watch it from beginning to end. This one, you might go, maybe I should watch the previous one too, and then remind myself of where everything was.
Yeah, you'd have to watch that arc. Right.
Yeah. But as a conclusion to an arc, I thought this was excellent.
It really is a great episode. I've got to agree.
My mind is never closed. I think maybe people think that it is. But you and I, many times when we've gone out to different restaurants or eaten in different countries, I'm always willing to try something because it might be my favorite thing. But if I don't like it, I'm going to tell you I don't like it. But I will try it.
Yes, you're never shy.
No, shy is not my thing.
Okay. In conclusion, I'm going to say that was just surprising and awesome.
Okay. Well, I guess that wraps up Season 6, Episode 6. Come back next week for Episode 7. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at rebingeit@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at rebingeit. We're also on Instagram and YouTube at rebingeit. Talk Through Media has a Patreon, patreon.com/Star Trek TTM, and that Patreon is for all of the podcasts on the Talk Through Media network. And you can always go to talkthroughmedia.com to leave feedback for individual episodes and to check out the other podcasts on the network, including Star Trek Prodigy, a Rebinge It podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.